Hi guys, and welcome back to Structured Digital Learning with Cindy Q. In today's video, we'll be focused on grammar. We'll be creating both synchronous and asynchronous lessons. So let's not waste any more time. Grab your favorite cup of coffee, tea, beverage of choice, and let's get planning. Okay, so here are our plans for today. We're going to be creating synchronous whole group lessons. We'll be creating both synchronous and asynchronous student activities, and we'll talk a little bit about assessments and where you can get content for that. So our whole group lesson is going to be synchronous. What does that mean? Okay, remember, synchronous is when you're doing the live session together with students. This is where I'm going to be taking notes. This is a time I'm going to take to show them the anchor charts I've created, which will now be in a digital format. And we're going to talk about the notes together. We're going to participate. There'll be dialogue between us. This is our time to work on the I do, we do section with our notes, okay? So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is go on over to our TE. So let's go ahead and open those up. So here we are in our grammar section. I can see that my grammar focus for the week is going to be complete sentences. I want to know a little bit more exactly of what we're going to be doing daily. So I'm going to click here on projectables. I'm hoping that your TE has something like this, but if not, you can always look at your students' workbook and see what activity that they have for that day, and then base your notes on that. I don't need to tell you that you're all educators. We know how this works, right? But just in case you're new, maybe you're a first-year teacher, this might help you. So if you don't have a projectable as your guide, then go ahead and just look at your students' daily work, what you would assign for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and let that be how you know what content you need to gather to create your materials. Okay, so I'm going to click here, projectable 1. For grammar complete sentences, for Monday, we're working on simple subjects and predicates. So I'm going to write that down because I'm going to start getting my notes ready so that I can start prepping my notes for my students for my synchronous learning. So simple subject predicate will be Monday. I'm going to get out, go to day 2. Day 2 has me focusing on sentence fragments, so I would write that down in my Post-it so I can just start gathering everything all at one time and not have to be going back and forth. Get out of here, go to day 3. Writing complete sentences. Great. So I have my Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday activity. I'm going to look at my Thursday activity. And it's a spiral review. I don't want to go into a spiral review right now. I want to continue working with complete sentences. So what I'm going to do for Thursday for my synchronous lesson, I'm going to have a Kahoot session with my students. So I will go ahead and play a couple of games with them through Kahoot. If you haven't played a Kahoot game with your students, go ahead and log in. It's completely free. It's one of those resources out there for us. They're free, they're fun games. The kids really enjoy it. Take a look, just take a look, and I'm sure you'll love it as much as I do and other educators do as well. Okay, so we know what we're working on today. We have to create notes for simple subject and predicate, sentence fragments, and complete sentences. From here, I'm going to head on over to my favorite site. Might be your favorite site as well. I'm going to head on over to Pinterest and get a couple of ideas for anchor charts. From those anchor charts, I'm going to then start creating my notes in the drive. So first things first, let's go find a couple of anchor charts. Okay, so here I am on Pinterest. I'm going to go ahead and just put in what we're working on, which is for Monday, simple subject and predicate anchor chart. I'm going to click that. Find an anchor chart that I like. Let me see, something interactive that I can do with my students, as simple as well, that's not going to take me 30, 40 minutes. I don't want to be doing my synchronous lesson with them that long. Remember, I said 15 to 20 minutes. The remainder of the time, keep it open as office hours, maybe conference with a couple of students, work with those students that are having a hard time that you already know need a little extra support. Okay, so keep that window open for that. But the lessons should be fairly quick. Okay, here we go. I like this one. I like the colors that I can switch over to my own notes, or if I brought posted some big old post-it charts from work, I can go ahead and create this myself, or I can just go ahead and take a picture of this, screenshot. And that's actually what I like to do. So I would take a screenshot of just these notes. Just in case you're not familiar with how to take a screenshot, I have a couple of notes here for Apple. So to take a screenshot from Apple, you would hold down Command Shift plus the number 4, so all three at the same time. Then it sends it over to your saved files, and you would have to find it there. If you're using a Chromebook, it's Control plus Shift plus the selection key. If you're not sure what that is, it's that little tab above the number 6 at the same time. Then it's going to save it in your downloads, I believe, and then you can go and do editing there if you like. If you're on a Windows, then you're going to press the window key plus the print the screen, which is right above the addition sign. And then it'll save that also in your computer, and then you can go and find it. Okay, so we found our chart for Monday. We're taking a screenshot of it. And now we're going to head on over to our drive to find our ELA folder that we created in our previous video. Okay, so we are here in our drive. And in our drive, the last time we already created our ELA and our math folders. So we're going to go ahead and click on our ELA folder. In our ELA folder, we created our Unit 1 folder. So I'm going to click on that. And in here, we already have our Lesson 1. So click on that one, open it up, and we have our Comprehension, Grammar, and Spelling folder. Spelling already has work from our previous video, and today we're going to start adding work for our grammar. I want us to create our teacher notes together. So we need to, shouldn't have been there. Let me go ahead and get rid of it. It wasn't there. We need to open up our something to start creating our notes in. I like to create my notes in slides, as you saw. And then I just present it. And it's easier for them to follow. It's a nice big screen, and you can work with it. You can make it cutesy if you want, or you can keep it as simple as you want. So we're going to go ahead and click on New. Click on Google Slides. And here we go. Our templates are here. This is kind of boring for me. So what I like to do is I like to change my background. This is my template that I have. And it looks like a workbook, like their notebook, which is what they're going to have at home. So I want to try and keep that same flow of writing in your notebook. So I would like to have my background here, my template, look like what they're going to have at home. Where did I get this template? Well, there is a site that you can go to, and there's tons of free templates that you can gather. So I'm going to share that with you right now. Okay, here's the site where I got my slides, Slides Go. And it has a tab down here for education. Clicked on that one. And then you can just go through and see what you like. This is kind of like the one that I have. Mine is an older version, but they have a new updated one. And it's really cute. Same thing, follows the same thing. It has the background to it. Now you can choose to use whichever ones you want. If it has content on it, but you just erase it. The template is a background. So you can go ahead and erase all of this information that they have there for you. And then you can create your own, which is what we are going to do. So here we are in our template that we're using. And as you can see, I put grammar notes on the top. I labeled my, my file that I'm going to be creating all my weekly notes in. And here we go. This is the first thing you can do. You can go over to that screenshot that you got and just put it in here. Walk your students through it. So when you're presenting, it's going to look like this. And then you can just walk them through everything. Quite honestly, I think this is way too much for them to look at one time. This is perhaps something that I would put on my LMS that we're going to create in a couple of videos from now. If you want to, though, this is perfect. This is something that you can completely use, nothing against it, but I personally would not and did not conduct my classes this way. I actually took this information and made them into actual notes, which is what I have here. I took day one, I put what we were working with, simple subject and predicate, and then I put a little information with it. So every complete sentence has a subject and a predicate. Then I went ahead and I would ask my students, okay, do we remember what this is? Remember, I had 5th and 6th grade students, so they had background knowledge. If you have your kindergarteners the way I do this year, your 1st graders, that's not really going to be something that you would ask them. And this would be later on in the year when you start working on things like that with them. So this is where you can start interacting with your students. Remember, it's a synchronous classroom. It's a live session. This is where you're having those conversations. You're asking those questions. This is a time where I have my equity sticks at home and I'm calling out on names here. Okay, so so-and-so, what's the subject? All right, oh, you don't remember? Okay, can somebody help so-and-so? And then move on from there. Okay, what's the predicate? Oh, okay, you don't remember? Then you can go into it and start explaining to them, little at a time. This is going to stretch out your lesson and it's going to give that time for you to interact with your students and really get to see how much more of this do you need to work with them, or can you move on to the next activity, which is what we have for Tuesday, would be for me sentence fragments. Or maybe I during this time, I'm seeing that, hey, they really don't know much, so I might want to slow it down a little bit. Okay. Then we've done our first section of the notes. Let me show you actually in presentation mode. This is what they have. Day one, they've already written this down. We've talked about it. Day two, I've just added to my notes. And I like color. I like to distinguish. And that's the way that the anchor chart that I selected from Pinterest looked like. So I'm going to keep it in that same format. So I can do that. I would put that same information. Name the person, place or thing, that's the subject, and the predicate tells what the subject does, and so on. I would move. Here's the next part. The next part would just be the example that we're working on together down here. Okay. So this one anchor chart is going to be my entire synchronous lesson where we're going to be having that dialogue, that back and forth, those discussions are going to come up. And we know that we can stretch this out a little longer from our experience in the classroom if we need to. Now you might be asking, okay, great, you've shown me how to do this, but how do I get all this stuff in there? Okay, really quick, you're going to start with a blank template, such as this. Remember that when I showed you on Slides Go, it already had content. All you have to do is go ahead and erase it. You're going to put this template in, that's the one that you want to work with. Once you have it in there, you're going to take out everything that's in there. So you're going to highlight and just click backspace and delete. Now I can start from scratch. So I want to add some text. I want to come up here to where it says text box. And I'm going to create a text box here, if it worked. Let's see. There we go. Sorry. So I opened it up, text box, and then just type whatever it is you want. So Monday, what is it that I had? Day one. So day one, and then it was subject, predicate, and there we go. So I have my first box ready with the information that I need. I'm not going to keep typing on that box. That's just for the first one. I'm going to create another box down here, the next section, which was subject and predicate. I want to have that in their own sections. Back up here, I have another box I created. And this one I'm going to center it. Let me move myself out of the way. Come over here to align, click center. I have it in different colors, so let me move me again. I'm in the way. click text color here, and I want it to be red for when I'm writing about the subject. Skip, and now I want to change my color for my text to blue. Okay, I'm done here. Now, too small, make it bigger, change the font, whatever it is that you want to do with it. I want to create two separate boxes, one that just gives information for the subject and then one that gives information for the predicate. I'm going to come back up here to my text box and add another box here. That's going to be for my subject. If you want to be able to see the box, let me move this here. If you want an outline to keep it in, then you would come up here and you would put the border dash. So I want it to be in just its own box, and I'm going to make the size a little bigger so I can see it. And here you go. Now you can see. And here is where I would have my information for my subject. Come over here, create another text box. Do the same thing. You can actually make it the color that is already with the predicate, but I'm just going to keep them black. Let's see, here we went. Solid lines, I believe I did a 4. Now I can put in all my information here for my predicate. Now we have two distinct boxes, one for subject, one for predicate. So it'll look like what I had here. That's pretty much it. Then you would just continue going this way for your next set of notes. I like to divide everything into different sections. So all of this that we got from our anchor chart is on 3 different slides where we're talking about it, where we're having those discussions, where I'm really trying to see, do my students remember what this is? Do my students have any clue about what I'm talking about? Is it going right above their head as I'm doing the lesson with them? This is at time. This is why the synchronous part of your lesson is very important. It's your whole group time in the classroom before you allow them that opportunity to go to their workstations and then attempt it on their own. Okay, so our notes are super important. Make them as clear as possible as you want and have them in presentation mode when you're presenting. Here I'm showing you in both different ways so that you can see how I'm creating, but how they look at the end. Little by little, we're giving them more and more. I have more notes. So I remember that on Wednesday, we were doing complete sentences. Again, took a screenshot. I don't want it that way. This is more just for ideas. And then this is how I would start breaking it down. All that information, I would just start adding. And then we're done. We're done with our lesson. So get as creative as you want with it. I'm trying to find different ways to save money, different ways to stay within my curriculum, to follow my pacing guide, to make sure that I'm using what the school has provided me, what my district has provided me with, to not give myself that much of a headache. Okay, so this is our part. This is our synchronous notes for our whole group. We're done. Okay, now we can move on to our synchronous and asynchronous student assignments, which is what we're moving on to next. We're done creating our whole group synchronous lessons. We're ready to start working on creating our synchronous and asynchronous activities for our students. So let's head on over back to our TE. We're going to start creating our synchronous activity. This is where we're going to work with our students using the I do, we do method. Okay, we're going to start by clicking on our projectable. Students don't have access to this activity. This is the one that's in our TE designed for us to model what they need to do. Because students don't have access to this, I need to make sure to take a screenshot of the image that we'll be working with that I'm going to put into our Google form. So I would take a screenshot of this part that has the instructions and the activities that we'll be working on. After I've taken the screenshot, I'm going to head on over back to my drive, to my grammar folder. Once I'm in my grammar folder, I'm going to create a new form. So I'm going to go over to New, going to go to More, and I'm going to create that form. Once I'm here, I'm going to title it Day 1 Practice, because this is the one I'm modeling. This is the one I'm working with them. This is a synchronous activity. Day 1 Practice, title it here as well. And I'm going to go over to my settings. I'm going to collect emails, limit it to 1 response. That way they can only do this activity 1 time. Let me move myself over, and I'm going to make it a quiz. This is so that they can get the responses checked. I'm going to click Save, and now I can start working on my form. That image we took, we're going to add right here. So we're going to click on Add an Image. We're going to browse. We're going to browse through our content of where we have it, and from here, it'll upload. I already have one that's created for us, which is this one, just in the wrong section. I've already uploaded the image, and what I've done is I've just listed what they need to put in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've made them all short responses. I'm done. It's not multiple choice, so they're all short responses. I need them to put an actual answer for them. I'm going to do the I do, we do method. So I am going to do 1 to 2 of these problems, 2, with them to model what I need them to do and to model how I need them to put in their answers into the response section. Okay, so 1 and 2, and I will tell them I will do 1 and 2, and then we can do 3, 4, 5. And to try to challenge them, I would have them do 6, 7, 8 on their own if I see that they're ready for that. When we're working on the I do part, when they're going to watch me, I'm going to be very clear with what I need them to do. The reason for that is because in my answer key, if they don't put their responses in this particular format, it will be wrong. And I want them to do it this way because they're being asked to do 2 different things, underline and circle. I want them to be together. I can put them in 2 different boxes. You see how it says student, and on the top, I could put researched on the bottom, but I want them to see that they should all be in the same line. That's just me. You can put them in 2 different sections and not have to worry about the slash part. Because when I'm showing them how I want them to respond, I'm going to model it. I'm going to put, okay, what I'm going to ask them, what's the subject? We'll come up with it together. Okay, students are the subject. I'm going to let them know, don't put a space. Immediately put the slash. I will tell them on the keyboard where to find it. I'll tell them, look for the question mark. That's the one that you're going to push. That little slash is the one that you want. And then I'll tell them again, don't click the space bar and then type in research. I'll remind them that the words are up here, so they should not be misspelled. Encourage them to write them on a notebook and then transfer them over if needed. That way that they, because if they misspell it, it will be an incorrect answer. Okay, I would do number 2 as well, because I did notice when I looked at it that I have Butch and Frank, 2 subjects. So I need to make sure that I model how they need to put it in. They need to make sure that it's Butch, space, and space, Frank. No more space, slash. Again, you can save yourself a little bit of a headache with the younger students if you want, or even with the older, by putting Butch in one, Frank in another, and then the predicate can be found. But I want them to see that Butch and Frank, they're the subjects. They belong together. And then we're going to separate it with a slash for the predicate to be found. That's the reason I'm going to really make sure that I model this for them, to help alleviate any future headaches that they might have when they're putting in their answer. But I can guarantee you that there will be someone that will cause you a little bit of a headache, and it's understandable. I had fifth and sixth, and it was an issue. I'd go back and I'd check, and then I'd explain. It takes time and practice for them. So if this isn't the route you want to go, I'm going to give you another way of doing this. You can take a snapshot, a screenshot of the whole thing and make it into an interactive slide, which is this one. Okay. I put it in as a background. So all I did was I have a blank slide. I put it into a background. I chose my image, selected it from my drive, from wherever it is I had it stored, and uploaded that. What this does is it creates it as a background, so students, no matter how much they try to mess with it, they can't change it. It can't be in presentation mode when they're working on it. It has to be in this format. It has to be where they can see all the slides. Now, to make it interactive, you on your end, you would have to create the underlines and the ovals, because it says underline the simple subject and circle the predicate. So you're going to have to create that. The way you go about that is, for the underlines, you can come here where it says line, create a line. It lets me, there we go. Create a line. It's really thin, so I'm going to go ahead and make it thicker. And I'm going to change the color. I was using colors in my notes, so I would match them to that. Make my line, I can make it smaller. I'm going to move it to the side. Not to being easy. Now, this is part of the frustration your students might get in moving it, exactly what I was going through. But if you want to make it interactive, by all means, this is a way to do it. I need to create circles. I'm going to come over here to shapes, find a circle, create a circle, put it on the opposite side, funny looking oval, actually. And then here, I'm going to go to the fill, make it transparent so that we could see the word behind it. Make it thicker again, it's very thin. And whatever color it is that I had designated for the predicate, that's what I'm going to do. I need to create more than one. So I'm going to duplicate this one. Control copy, Control V, and here we go. Now I can move them around so that students can easily get to them and then place them where they need to be. I need to do the same thing for my line. So Control copy, Control V. They can either move it with their cursor or with their mouse pad, or they can use the arrows moving up and down. They just have to have it highlighted. You're also going to have to model how they can do this if they're not familiar with using interactive slides. Then you just assign this one, and then you have to check it. You have to correct it. So then I would most likely go over this during the morning before I start my notes with them. That way they know which ones they got correct, which ones were incorrect, and then I can see, do I need to do a lesson on simple subjects, which I would probably do on Thursday during my Kahoot time. That would be my review day with them. And I could see that this is definitely something I have to review really well, or it's something that I don't really have to touch much when we're doing our review with Kahoot. All right, now, this is our part for our synchronous lessons. To create the asynchronous, the materials your students are going to be working on, it's going to be the same thing. We're going to head on over. My screens are moving everywhere. To our TE, we're going to go on down and find their workbook activity. I'm going to click on that. Make it bigger. And I'm only, because I'm going to put it in a form, I'm only going to take a screenshot of 1 through 4 by itself. Then I'm going to take a screenshot of 5 through 7. They're 2 different parts, and that's how I want to put them into my form. And in my form, I'm going to have 2 sections. if you've never worked with creating sections, it's really easy. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's giving me two different sets of instructions that they have to do. So I'm going to head on over back to my drive. In my drive, I'm going to create another form. Go to new. You guys know how to do this. Form and open up a new form. I already have this completed for us to view since we're familiar with forms now. Now we just have to work on the sections, which is super easy. You can see on the top, it says I have section 1 of 2 because it was 1 through 4 and then 5 through 7. Now, if during my synchronous lesson with them, when we did our activity, I looked at my responses and I saw that some of my students were struggling. They were getting a lot of them wrong of the ones I let them do independently. Then this isn't an activity I want them to start working on their own. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ask those specific kiddos to work with me on their homework. And I will do a couple with them. I will model it, we'll talk about it, we'll be interacting. Even though it's meant to be an asynchronous activity, I can still, it's my classroom, I can still work with them, just like I would in the classroom. My other kiddos that I see that are ready, I'm going to let them go ahead and work on this on their own. And as soon as they're done and they hit submit, and I see that, they can let me know we're done, then they're free to log off for whatever time we've allotted, or our district has told us that we need to be on for ELA, for math, for social studies. Okay, then I'll let them go ahead and go off and take a break. And then we'll meet back again at whatever time it is that is designated for the next subject. But the kiddos that I see that need a little more help, I'm going to take this activity and continue working with them. That was just a little extra there. Okay, so we're creating this one exactly the same way. We're going to add our image, and we're just going to add our short answer responses 1 through 4. 2. What did I do? I have to have this one clicked in order for me to add another one. So then for number 2, and then I want to add 3 and 4 because they had 4 sections. I'm going to go back and I need to make all of them short response, short answer. And remember, then you go into the answer key and you put the response and the point value that you want it to be. For this one, read the complete, underline the simple subject and circle the predicate. 2 points. You don't have to put a point value, but you can if you want to. Okay, 1 through 4, they move on. 1, 2, 3, here we go. Let's number that one 4. That's section 1. You can see it says section 2 of 2. The way I did that was I clicked on the equal sign and then it created a new section for me. I'm going to delete this one. That was just to show you. So once again, to create a new section, you just click on the equal sign. And then it creates that new section for you. Okay. So here we go. Where did that section go? It went all the way to the top. Let me delete that one. I don't need it. 1 through 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. My section 2, I've added that one. And this is for 5 through 7. Same steps, guys. Going all the way down. 5 through 7, short answers. My answer key. I'm going to remind students how they need to respond to this. Remember, this is asynchronous, so they're on their own. This is their workstation activity before they can log off. Remind them how they need to answer it really quick before you let them go off to it. Now, how does this look on the student end because it's in sections? Let's take a peek. This is what the students are going to see. Homework, their assignment and instructions, 1 through 4 right here. They just have to put in their answers. Oh, I didn't change those. They should all say your answer. Then they click next. And it takes them to their new section, 5 through 7. Simply put in their answers. They can go back. It's not final. If they left a couple of them blank or they want to go back and review them, they can, which they might not, but they can. And next, then they just submit. And that's it. Once they submit, then you can see their responses. On this end, they can send you a message on Zoom, say, or Google Meets, whatever it is that you're using your platform, and say, I'm done. You look at the responses, give them a thumbs up, send a message back, however it is that you want to release them, but always make sure that it's turned in. And we are done with assignments, synchronous and asynchronous assignments. You'll continue to do these for the remainder of the lessons, and then you're done. Easy peasy, right? All right, we have one more thing to tackle. So we're done with whole group lessons. We're done with student activities. Now we're going to move into assessments. Now, for assessments, these will be informal, as you'll have to most likely give the assessments that come with your curriculum, which will be a lifesaver. You just assign them and then students get them done. But you do want to assess your students before they take the test. And so that would be an informal assessment. This is when I'm going to do the Kahoot with my students. So let me show you what that looks like. So this is Kahoot. Simply go online, Google Kahoot, then you can sign up for free. Once you're here, you come into Kahoot and you can click on Discover Kahoots, and then you put in exactly what it is that you want to work with. So this is my Thursday synchronous activity with my students. I'm going to put in simple subject. And predicate, but simple subject will do. Here we go, and predicate. I can see how many questions. I can put simple subject and predicate by grade so that it brings it down a little bit more. My searches are not so extensive. So let's see, simple subject predicate, 10 questions. That's a good one to warm us up. I want to do more than one and really get them engaged and going with this. Let's see, so I would click on this one. Click on Kahoot, I'd look at the questions, they have 30 seconds. Yeah, that works. I like it, I want to play this. I want to play a live game together, that's what I want to do with my students, or assign it, I can assign it to them, definitely as extra work. But this is during our synchronous time, so I'm going to go ahead and click teach. Now I can do it for asynchronous assignments. Then I would do the assign part. Here we go, classic, so that it's individual. Students on their end would have to go and click, here we go, Kahoot.it, and it will take them to this site. They have to put in the pin that's being shown. This is your individual pin. They put that in. Let's see. Control copy, put that in here, enter. That way they get access to the game, and I'm going to put Miss Q. It says I'm in. Once I'm in, it shows right here. Once all my students have logged in, put in the pin, and they're here on my board as players, I can start the game. I always remind my kiddos to use their first name and to remember that their first name starts with a capital letter. Just reminders, even though I had 5th and 6th graders, I'd have to remind them. And I was really strict. If they did not put their name, I would go ahead and kick them out, and then they'd have to sit that game out until they got a chance to come in during the next game. So let me show you what it'll look like on their end. Yes, informal assessment, kind of fun, and you'll see why. This is a question that's being asked. And on their end, they don't see the question. They just have to pick one of the answers. this is a question you're projecting, and this is what they have on their end. They pick an answer, and then it'll show you. It'll show all of them. How many answered what. They don't know who answered what unless they're sharing, oh, I didn't get it right, or I got it right, then they know. It's very interactive. It's an informal assessment that's fun at the same time. It keeps them very engaged. You can go through easily 3 or 4 of these, and it'll take 45 minutes, and it won't even feel like it. They have a lot of fun, and you're able to see who still needs a little bit more practice here. So you can assign it either as a whole group, which this is what this looks like right now when we're playing, or the way that the system allowed us to individually assign it as something for them to work at home. So for my Thursday activity, this is exactly what I would be doing. I would be working synchronously with them doing this activity, and I would not assign Kahoot as an assignment. I'm going to use a whole different site for that. This is my informal assessment that then, because it's going to give me data. I forgot to mention that to you. So it will give you data on this end. So you can go to Kahoot. Let me go to the beginning, because I keep saying an assessment, but it looks so much like a game. I'm going to go to Kahoot, and then it lets me click on reports. So I'm going to click on reports, and then I'll be able to see my students' grades. Right now, I don't have anything here. Oh, continue to report. Here we go. Finished. These are games that I played with my students previously, and if I wanted to see the data, then I can go ahead and open it to look at it, to see who got what, how many points, just like we would with any of the data with our assessments that we have. But again, it's an informal one. So it'll let you know what students got, how they performed, number of players, it reminds you all of that. And again, you want to keep this fun. I like to keep it fun. Thursday, been a rough week. It's distance learning at this point. Make it as easy, be creative. And notice again, I'm not spending any money, and it's even giving me data back that if my admin is asking, hey, what is it that you're doing? How are your kiddos doing? I can send them these reports from Google Forms, say, well, this is how we're doing. It'll show them the data per question, whole group, per child, and then I could do that with Kahoots as well. Now, this is my synchronous part of my informal assessment. Let me show you what I would use for, what I do use for my asynchronous assessment part. Okay, so let's head on over to a site named Quizy. So this is Quizy, and again, it's free. All you have to do is create an account, and then you have access to this. This is teacher created. Fellow educators have gone in, they've created their own quizzes. You can create your own if you want. You don't have to use someone else's. You might not find the content that you're looking for. I've even done spelling tests on Quizy before I figured out how to do it via Screencastify. So I was using this one and then giving it as a multiple choice test. It also differentiated my manner of testing, which I enjoyed. And I did notice that the data for my students in spelling did fluctuate. It was different from when I did it with Quizy multiple choice to when they just had to do it with the audio. So another way that you can do spelling would be through Quizy. Another way to do informal assessments, again, would be through Quizy. So this is the one that I would assign to my kiddos. Come in, put simple, subject, predicate. It's, if you want to put it by grade level, then go ahead. You can see the questions that have been created already. Come on in. It's, you can play live, just like Kahoot. You can assign it, and if you assign it, it's linked through your Google Classroom. So here we go. I don't have anything I don't have any classes, so I can select. Here we go. This is my 5th and 6th grade that is no longer active. So I'm going to have to remove this and add my kindergarteners. Yes, I will definitely be using Kahoot and Quizzy with my kindergarteners. They're definitely capable of it. It's going to make it more exciting, and they're going to become familiar with these different platforms that are out there for them to use. And my keyword here is they're free. They're free for us, and I believe even their parents might be able to create one themselves, but they don't have to. But if your parents are asking for extra stuff, you could tell them, hey, go to Quizzy, or you can upload stuff for them on Quizzy. But this is amazing, and again, free, 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 free. Okay, so I would assign it, and since it's through Google Classroom, you can see it has a little symbol right here. Then I would just go ahead and click next. Come on down. Go on up, not down. Put the day that I want it to be due, put the time. So this is how long they have to do it. And then assign the game. It'll show up for them on Google Classroom, but we're going to put it on an LMS. And our LMS is infused through Google Classroom. Remember, I showed you that in video 1. So we're just creating content right now, but I wanted to show you this because these are my informal assessments. If I really wanted to do something a little different, I can go back to my forms if I wanted to, and then pick out the problems that the questions that they got incorrect, the ones that they missed the most, and create another form and give that as an assessment. But we've had 3 days already of Google Forms, most likely in ELA and in math. I want to change it up. So I'm going to use Quizzy and Kahoot to help me with those informal assessments. That way on Friday when we meet up, before I give them the test, maybe we could do a little bit more of a review together. Gonna get that word out there. All right, so that's it for assessments. We're all done. So we're at the end. We got through grammar. I know it was a lot of content, a lot of information. I hope you find all of it useful, and use as much as you possibly can. You heard me saying with Quizzy and Kahoot, free, free, free. Save as much of that money as you possibly can. Use what your district is providing for you. And once again, I just hope you find it helpful. So it's your turn to open up your TEs and get going with your lesson 1, unit 1, chapter 1, whatever it is that it's called. It's that time for you to grab your cup of coffee, tea, drink of choice, and start planning.